Here's a survey, and this was 1994. The survey was probably earlier than that. Let's see, international. No, survey's 1994. So this was over 10 years ago, over 14 years ago, right? About 14 years ago. And so 14 years ago, and I like to always say that because every time you see the numbers change a little bit, but they don't always change much. Sometimes they do. So keep that in mind. Gallup survey, 400 executives, Fortune 1000 companies, large companies, right? 79% said the pace of change at their companies is rapid or extremely so. Now, you design your organization based on your environment that your organization is working in. Some environments are really slow and not changing, and so you got to be adaptive to that environment. Some environments are really fast and changing quicker than anything. For example, cell phones. And so you got to adapt and have your organization around that, you know, as a product. And the oil industry is probably going to go through a rapid change, right? So you got to design your company to fit the environment that your company is trying to thrive in. So take that into consideration. 61% said the pace will pick up in the future. Okay, we agree with that. We've seen it 14 years ago versus today, right? Do you think cell phones have changed in 14 years? I mean, what did cell phone look like? We still had pagers. I'd say we had cell phones, but we still had pagers too. Probably at that time, I had a bag phone. That's probably when I got the bag phone, sometime around there, that time. So there's still bag phones and car phones. Just give you an idea. So a lot of changes. Now I got a computer on my phone. I can watch video on my phone. I can do all kinds of things. That's a big change. I selected the bag phone because it got better coverage. Let's see. And I could have picked a smaller phone, but I remember selecting the bag phone. Even if it's big, I was just going to keep in the car anyway. I wasn't going to carry it with me. Who would ever carry a phone around with them? Who needs that? You know, I had a pager anyway. I just pager and go to my car and make a phone call if I needed to. And so that's what I was thinking. Or I could carry the bag phone, you know, wherever it was. So things have changed, right? All right, so 62 said did not have plans for dealing with the change. Now that's scary. These top executives didn't have plans dealing with change, right? And look at us today. Do we have plans dealing with change? No. I mean, a couple of us are running our own organization, right? Do you have plans for the change? Change is coming. It's hard. I mean, it's hard to think that way. 75% said American managers resist change, and they gave these reasons. They're too short-term oriented. Anybody know some manager somewhere in your organization is too short-term oriented? Okay. They don't like to lose control. Remember that conversation we had? How many feel like somebody in the organization don't like to lose control? Maybe you're that person. I mean, I don't. Yeah, maybe the delegation issue. And because if we're perfect, I mean, we got to where we are because we're trying to make a difference in a positive way, and we're trying to be good at it, right? Do not know what to do about change. So that's a big issue because, man, that's a complicated subject. It's getting easier because we're learning more. So back then, it was even more complicated. Okay, see what the next slide is. That's a cartoon we've probably seen before. Well, maybe not. Bet, Wellman. Herb says 53% of all statistics are meaningless, and I say 56% is. Now that's interesting. It's the explanation you gave. A whole group of people didn't like the word shall and will, so they had an argument over shall and will, right? The word will, word shall. And so that'd be an example, you know, statistics. All right, continuous learning. In times of change, here's a good statement I like. In times of change, learners inherit the earth while the learned are beautifully equipped to deal with a world that no longer exists. That's why you got to continuously learn. You got to take this with a lot of, you got to put a lot of work in just learning. All right, now change dips. Now, here's a statement. things will get worse before they get better, and it's a variation of Murphy's Law. And anybody know where Murphy's Law came from? Okay, during the early space, getting ready for the space shots, right? We were doing sled exercises, and NASA was doing experiments on how much G-forces a person can take. So they had rocket sleds, and you'd shoot somebody real fast down a track. Right, and so you shoot them down the track, and then it would slow down at the end, so to see how many G's they can put a person through and still survive. Okay, so now the first trials of this, they shot this person down the track, and they had a whole bunch of things they found out about this. The first thing they found out is about 50 of the parts they used to put this thing together were put in the wrong way and weren't assembled correctly. And so out of that whole, can you imagine being the person on this, and you start doing analysis, and the sled's not even put together right. And so everything started going wrong. So Murphy's Law was what can go wrong will go wrong. And then people start adding to it. So then one of the laws was things will get worse before they get better. Now that kind of looks like this slide, doesn't it? Things will get worse before they get better. Things will get worse before they get better. Does that make sense? So that's been known since the 60s, I guess. I don't know what happened to the person on the... He didn't die. He just found that it was uncomfortable, that he found that he could have died. and there's more to it than that. I could give you names, but I have to actually read them. I don't keep that stuff on top of my head. All right, now the fifth discipline. Has anybody heard the book Fifth Discipline? Systems Thinking. This is something you'd love because it's very technical, and it talks about all the laws to how things work together. These problems come from yesterday's solutions. One of the laws of systems thinking. The harder you push, the harder the system pushes back. Okay, is that have you experienced that? And it goes back to physics. For every force, there's an opposite and equal force pushing against back, okay? And then here's the 3. Things get better before they get worse. Now, I just said things get worse before they get better. Why would this guy have one of the system laws that things get better before they get worse? Okay, things get worse before they get better. How can things get better before they get worse? Yeah. Yeah, and so this is talking about the change you're implementing. This is talking about what actually happens in the future.
Unintended consequences.
Yeah, and unintended consequences, well, there's a couple of things. Let's see. Let's go through some of these laws because these are interesting. I have some of it blocked off and I can't get to it because it's actually on the website. But easy way out usually leads you back in. The cure can be worse than the disease. Cause and effect are not closely related in time space. So that tells us if we make a big change, we go away thinking we're heroes, but pretty soon it's going to blow up. And all this other stuff. Anyway, there's a bunch of them. And you said unintended consequences, and the law that goes with that is something like this. The intended consequences may never happen, but there's always unintended consequences. Okay? And then there's other things like, well, there's just a whole bunch of laws, and they're really cool. If you get that book, you'll learn a lot. Okay? But it's hard to read. It's very technical and very hard to read. Okay, so is this good stuff so far?